Hello, you big, beautiful world. Welcome to our podcast, Brothers of Many Words. I'm joined here this evening by Mr. Corey Hill.
Hey.
Sir, the purpose of the podcast is to have open discussions on various subjects by the way of reading books, articles related to topics picked, which would allow us to discuss, review, debate, and enlighten ourselves along the way, as well as those who wish to join us on this beautiful journey. This year's topic, well, we're on a new year here, but we're going to finish off on last year's topic, which is the origins of religion. So this will be the last podcast for that tonight. Then we'll be moving on to another particular subject. And to find out what that will be, keep up to date with us on for future podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at brothersofmanywords.com. All right. Listen, to be curious is to inquire. To inquire is to research is to learn is to grow. Let's grow together. We hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get to it, Kings. Okay,
Yes,
so we
sir.
left off
Yes, sir.
Christianity, page 365. Let's get to it. Hey, as we know, Christianity is very powerful. It's the top religion, if you, so to speak, if you want to say that. It has been for a long time. And we have certainly covered different religions throughout this book. It's all been fascinating. It's all been new information for me. And so these are not our opinions. It's just things that we're reading and we're putting it out there, and you can make your own decision. Got on, as Haru mentioned, don't take our word for us. Get these books, read this information, enlighten yourselves on what origins of what is really going on and how that is translated from antiquity until now. And I'm sure you'll be quite amazed at what you come up with this information, for sure.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So 365. So let's start on 365. So that was the Apocryphal books. There's so much information.
Bruh, we already gonna probably get to 3 or 4 pages on this one. Just one page took me some hours to get through this. It took me some hours. I told my wife, I'm like, I'm still on page 1. Like, I'm still studying 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're dead on, bro. I mean, it is it's a lot. It's just a lot. As we said before, because these religions are antiquity, the information is just ridiculous.
It's vast, bro. It's vast. It is. It is. And the thing about it, it reminds me of kind of like the movie we were just talking about, Wicked, with the witches and all that. Like for 30 something, no, 42 years, I believe the Wicked Witch of the East was bad. She was green. She was coming after everybody until you learn really what the truth is. You know what I mean? And we had to wait 40 years later to really find out about that, in a sense. You know what I mean? I grew up thinking that motherfucker was, thinking that she was bad, and come to find out there's a whole different side to it. So it's kind of like what Church Ward is saying here. We've been made to believe, we've been indoctrinated to believe, and not only believe, but we've been forced to believe into Christianity, and that we don't have glory here on this earth, and and we are slaves, that once we die, we will receive that glory. But come to find out, I mean, that itself is not correct. It's not accurate.
That is correct. That's dead on, bro. That's dead on. So right there on top of page 365, I'm going to read that last sentence of that little short paragraph, and it's in the Roman canon, according to the degree of the Council of Trent, there are numerous, and he's talking about the apocryphal books there. So I looked up the decree of the Council of Trent, and so it's there for pull a period. And so the Council of Trent established key degrees that define Catholic doctrine and practices in response to the Protestant Reformation, addressing issues such as justification, sacraments, and the authority of the Church. The Council of Trent, held between 1545 and 1563, was a pivotal, how do you say that word? Ecumenical council of the Roman Catholic Church aimed at addressing challenges posed by the Protestant Reformation. It convened in 3 main sessions and produced a series of decrees and canons that clarified Catholic doctrine and reformed church practices. So that, it got me thinking, because we've come across a number of different councils, when it comes to religions, as the Council of Nicaea and things like that. Does anybody want to add anything?
I wanted to add. Go ahead, Corey.
It's gonna break down. I was fortunate some years back to how the Council of Trent and the different manuscripts in Church Ward. He brings it out. He does a damn good job on bringing out where some of the problems start changing, man, and where the own narratives. So it's just the different manuscripts, and the different manuscripts are going to show how things were changed to fit their narrative, man. So this man, he did a really good job. Let's see, the Vatican. There was a Vatican manuscript, and there's a couple more manuscripts that that they had. That's so. Of course, as reading this book, I'm just like tripping out. Like, how many manuscripts was it, and what did y'all leave out? So it's out here for us to the code. I think they call them codexes. The Dead Sea Scrolls. And so I'm wondering, I think it was which king? I think it was one of them kings that or like I said, the Council of Trent in 1500 changed. They took those the Maccabees out. You know what I'm saying? Which talks about the Spartans and all that. It's a trip. It's a trip. Page 365 is a trip, man, because I think that we should look at those different manuscripts and see where it changes, and I'm sure that we'll find where they start changing this stuff up, man, or leaving stuff out, and who was on the council was like, that's like us getting together being like, let's just leave that out because I don't think it's
right.
Yeah, so that's what he's that's what he's explaining on on this page right here.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna follow about what Corey was saying. Why was the decree necessary? And it explains that because of Martin Luther and other reformers,
that's right,
removing these books from the Old Testament, placing them in separate sections, and then argue they were not part of the Hebrew Bible. I had talked to a gentleman the other day, and he stated that Enoch, his pastor, told him Enoch was not part of the Bible. You know what I mean? And so there was no point into, digesting it, or ingesting it, I would say, and then two, why are some of these accepted and others rejected? Again, going along with what Corey said, it's the narrative. It's basically the narrative. Iniquity, written before a certain time. They gave reason to why. Usage, read while in worship. Theology, aligned with accepted doctrine. Again, Corey just mentioned that. Or authority linked to prophets or other apostles. So, I mean, again, when it don't fit the narrative, they start dissecting things in order to make it sound good, even though it holds no true value.
Absolutely. And so I had looked up the how many councils were there in Christianity. And so hold on here. Council, let me see how they say that. Ecumenical is how you say it. So there have been 21 ecumenical councils recognized by the Roman Catholic Church, while the Eastern Orthodox Church recognizes the first 7 councils as, God, I can't say that word again already. So there were a total of 21. So it all depends. So the Roman Catholic and the Eastern Orthodox Church. So that was it was at one time one church altogether, but as you see, they divided the church, the Catholic Church, I believe, until they split from the Roman Catholic Church to Eastern Orthodox Church, believe in 2 different things. So there were 21 altogether. I just want to see, because we've come across a few already, but to everything that you just said, so you just can imagine, with the Roman Catholic Church splitting, so then they have their set of doctrine to fit their narrative, and then they have theirs to fit their narrative, and how that has been passed on throughout the world. Very interesting, very interesting stuff right there, man. So let's see. So we're going to so also that's coming on down there, and so I'm just going to read a little bit. He talks about, the oldest writings, just that very next paragraph, the oldest writings are in Hebrew Chaldee in Syriac and later Greek. The oldest testament was the Coptic, from which the Ethiopic and Greek were taken about AD 160. The Coptic version was taken from the Egyptian and is the oldest. St. Matthew's Gospel was said to be originally written in Syriac. Latin translations were later. There are also 2 Arabic versions which were very much later. The Gospel of St. John had no historical existence until the last quarter of the 2nd century, except that taken from Tat-An and the ritual of ancient Egypt. So I looked up the Coptic version because I've come across that as well too, and I wanted to see what that meant. And so it says here there have been many Coptic versions of the Bible, including some of the earliest translations into any language. Several versions were made in the ancient world with different editions of the Old and New Testaments, and 5 of the dialects of Coptic. List them out here. I can't even say these names. Just wow. But hold on. I thought that Coptic meant something else too, but I guess not. No, so I guess it was just written in different languages. Is what that means.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was like Coptic is the final written stage of the ancient Egyptian language. So it was Coptic is not Greek and not Arabic. It is Egyptian, descending directly from the language of the pharaohs. Why Coptic matters biblically: preserves very early Christian theology. It reflects Alexandrian Christianity. It often preserves older textual readings than the later Greek manuscripts. So again, when it says very early Christian theology, we understand the concept. We was Egyptian first, and then that transformation happened.
Right. It's just from antiquity. I all have these things. I know there's some written in Mayan, has that type of thing, and it's just like look. Listen, we probably spend the rest of our lives just talking about religion. It is just that deep, man. I mean, it's just wild. Like, I know we're not doing it justice. And even at the bottom there, the Armenian Gospels, and the version of the Bible made at the close of the 4th century that's just another one, that talks about that as well. These so much information. And let's see, the Armenian version of the Gospels has a rich history and it's available in various formats. It's just another codex, as Corey was talking about, 2 religions. And the Codex Alexandrinus is a 5th century manuscript of the Greek Bible. So for each culture, they have their own thing, and they're so deep. These are just not things that are just made up. The information is just ridiculous. It's like, how do these people? I mean, how did they come up with it? Now, they didn't have the stuff that we had to track them, but still, it's not like the wording and the thought process that goes into this stuff is deep. It's deep.
Yeah. Bro, I'll take every bit of what they had back then than what we got going on now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
We think that, we have less control over anything now. We can't say certain things, you can't live a certain way. We don't grow our own food. We don't, we think we have freedom, I believe, but we don't. Our freedom has definitely been limited,
Sure.
I know you mentioned something too. You said in this particular paragraph, you said the oldest writings are in Hebrew, Chaldaic, and Syriac. You say Syriac. Syriac is the dialect of Aramaic, a very close to the language that Jesus supposedly had spoke, written in his own script. That I didn't know. It used crosses like Syria, Mesopotamia, and Persia. It is a sacred language of the church, like the Syriac Orthodox Church or the Church of the East. Why Syriac is extremely important, the language of thought. It's Greek language of philosophy, Syriac language of Semitic thought. I thought that was different. We're dealing with a lot now with the Semitic thoughts, and those that's on our news broadcast stations pretty much every day about how people use these particular terms. Also, too, you mentioned something about Saint John. Also, Saint John is an important figure in Masonry as well, too. So from what I understand, Saint John is important in Masonry. There's 2 different Saint Johns that are being honored. You have a Saint John the Baptist, and you have a Saint John the Evangelist. The Baptist is moral purification, symbol of initiation, repentance, and preparation. His feast day is June 21st, the summer solstice. Then Saint John the Evangelist represents spiritual light, wisdom, and divine logos. His feast is December 27th. So there is a particular time in rituals that it is set around December, and it is called the St. John's Festival in Masonry. You know, so a matter of fact, I was even told that there are several older lodges that are actually called St. John's lodges. So, you know, just and then quickly says, why does John's gospel specifically matters to Masons? You know, the Gospel of John is radically different from the synopsis of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John emphasizes logos, word reasoning, ordering principle, light versus darkness, knowledge, quote, gnosis, spiritual rebirth, truth as liberation. In the beginning was the word, quote unquote, it was logos. The language resonates with Greek philosophy, Plato, But St. John is favored not for the church authority, but for universal philosophy. I thought that was pretty significant too, because again, we discussed that quite a bit. And you know, once you get into understanding the lodge.
Very good, good. You want to add anything, Corey?
No, just looking at all these different like these different manuscripts. You know, I'm just on you know, was on Wikipedia, man. It was saying that they are let me see 5,800 different manuscripts, man. Like this it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? 5,800 complete or fragmented. And the fragmented thing right there, so if people are far as the integrity of the of you know, whatever the literature, and if you're transcribing these things off of just fragments, some stuff got to be made up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we have to get out there and do the seeking and the finding of this stuff, man. Because if if you got a fragment of something and you don't have the whole
Right.
exact thing, you're gonna you know, slightly, you know, change it up a little bit or do the best that you can of you know. It's just interesting, man. So this chapter is a trip. But yeah, that's all I got, brother.
So
Yeah.
I'll add to that, brother. So, you know, you mentioned the Dead Sea Scrolls earlier. And so they were, when they found those, they were, you know, they found a bunch, but they were so old, you know, unraveling them was a delicate process. But, you know, to everything you just said, they found bits and pieces, fragments of these things, but in some of them as well, they could see where off to the side of that fragment or that scroll, that there was different writing to everything that you just said. So they were written at different times, but these scribes or the people who were knowledgeable in that, you know, they were writing things in their own words. And so it's to everything you just said, you know, as time went on, they found them at different times, different years, a different, how do I want to say that sometimes they were like 100 years apart, you know what I mean? And so, but there would be different parts written into it to everything that you just said. So, and what we were speaking on earlier, the narrative, yeah, I'm sure it changed. As we talked about before, we could all be in a line and say one thing, but the time it got down there, it's a whole different, it is a whole different
Right.
sentence, you know? So
Yeah.
you're right about that, brother. That's
Yeah. Let me add to that too, because we went over this a few chapters back. Corey actually thought I was talking about him, but the Corey's Fragments book, you referred to Corey's Ancient Fragments, 19th century scholarly compilation. Corey's Ancient Fragments is a collection of survival fragments from ancient writers whose original works were lost. These fragments were preserved only because later authors quoted or summarized them. You know what I mean? So that goes right along the lines of what both you guys are saying. You know, some of these things were written thousands of years ago, and people misquote people all the time. You know what I mean? It was actually compiled and published in 1828 by Isaac Preston Corey, English researcher, interest in ancient history, mythology, and early chronology. What kind of texts are included? Well, let me see why it matters. It preserves non-biblical ancient accounts of creation, kingship, and floods. You see what I'm saying? So again, if you don't do your research and understand these things, you assume to believe anything.
That's
You
right.
see what I'm saying? You'll believe the narrative. But when you stop and just question it and not even question it, but just do your own due diligence. Then do you actually find out who you really are? And then by doing that, you be able to move on that thin line of knowing thyself.
That's right.
Instead of being part of the narrative.
That's right. That's right. Stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff, Jimmy. All right, we're going to move on to page 366. 366. that very first paragraph. Okay. It has been commonly assumed that the book of Revelation attributed to St. John the Divine constituted an historical link between the Old Testament and the New, but the Sarcolatro, or worshippers of the Word made flesh in one historic form of personality, the chroniclers of the Egypto-Gnostic Christ have never yet discovered what the revelation was intended to reveal. The book is and always has been inexplicable because it is based upon the symbolism of the Egyptian astronomical mythology without the gnosis or meaning which hath wisdom that is absolutely necessary for an explanation of its subject matter. And because the debris of the ancient wisdom has been turned to account as data for pre-Christian prophecy that was supposed to have its fulfillment in Christian history, the paleoanthropic has never been taken into account. And so that word paleoanthropic it means is a branch of paleontology and anthropology. Yeah, fossil humanoids. There you go. So the bone fragments and skeletal remains and all this. So that's never been taken into account. Yeah. So the book of Revelation, we know it. Of course, it is doom and gloom, and so the book of Revelation is an apocalyptic text that reveals the ultimate victory of good over evil, emphasizing themes of judgment, hope, and the establishment of a new heaven and earth. But that's not what Mr. Churchward just says, because they don't have the true meaning of it.
Yeah. Again,
it was written as we.
I mean, just like we went through earlier about. Yeah, my fault. Just like we went through earlier about the signs and symbols off of that screen, the screenshot that we talked about. Like, this stuff is still being used to today. And if you don't understand the signs and symbols, then you will perceive that differently than what it really is. You know what I mean? I sent that to 6-7 people just to get an idea of what they see. You know what I mean? Right. Everybody was different. That don't mean mine or just or Lodge Brothers is supposed to be right on. Don't get me wrong. But when you do understand the symbolism, that gives you I would say an advantage over now, over this particular knowledge, because you understand what this symbol means. It's just like if you took Nike to Australia, they're not going to know what that means. As a matter of fact, I think Reebok or Adidas, there's one particular brand that actually means like an elk or like some type of deer. You know what I mean? So if you show somebody that particular shoe brand, they might look at it as, hey, that's an animal. But yet again, it's shit but the symbolism of it is not an animal. Okay. Right. It represents a shoe brand, so, or a butterfly. You see a butterfly, 30 years from now, or, what I'm saying? So, I mean.
Yes, sir.
Dead on, bro. Okay. I'm gonna go down to that last paragraph there, that last paragraph on 366. Amongst the numerous types of Horus repeated at Rome as symbols of the alleged historic Jesus are Horus on his papyrus as the messianic shoot or Netzar, Horus the branch of endless ages as the vine, Horus as Ichthus the fish, Horus as the Bennu or phoenix, Horus as the dove, Horus as the eight-ray star of the Palerma, Horus as the scarabus, Horus as the child mummy with the head of Ra, Horus as the Bambino, Horus as the triangle reversed, Horus in his resurrection between two trees, Horus attended by two divine sisters or two women, Horus as the line of the double force, Horus as the Serapis. The catacombs of Rome are crowded with illustrations which are reproduced as Egypto-Gnostic tenets, doctrines, and dogmas which had served the Persians, Greek, Roman, and Jew as evidence of the non-historic origins of Christianity. I thought that was significant, given the different forms that Horus has been depicted as the creator, as the same way as different names, things like that. And so the worship of the Serapis is the worship of Serapis was a significant aspect of the Ptolemaic kingdom where the deity was created to unify Greek and Egyptian cultures. Serapis was a composite deity combining the authority of Zeus, the underworld of Osiris, and the vitality of the Apis bull. His cult spread rapidly with temples dedicated to him in major cities such as Alexandria, Rome, and Pyrrhus. The cult promised healing, protection, and a blessed afterlife, making it attractive to people across social classes and cultural backgrounds. Serapis' worship involved elaborate rituals, including processions, initiations, and festivals, and his priests maintained a sacred literature and performed healing rites. The cult's significance extended beyond religion, serving as a tool of political and cultural integration under the Ptolemies and later the Romans, reinforcing their rule by fostering a shared spiritual identity among their diverse subjects. So as we see here, we're talking about, Christianity and combining things in to fit their narrative as the worship of Serapis, as was done here, and to make a strong foundation to get the people to come to them. I think any thoughts on that? Mm-hmm. Mm, mm, mm. Right, right. Mm-hmm. 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 That's good. And so, I mentioned the catacombs of Rome, and that's a famous place, in Rome. That's a famous place. The catacombs of Rome are ancient catacombs, which are underground burial places in and around Rome, of which there are at least 40. Some rediscovered since 1578, some even as late as the 1950s. There are more than 50 catacombs in the underground of Rome, in which about 150 kilometers of tunnels run. Though most famous for Christian burials, separate catacombs are mixed together. Jews and also adherents of a variety of pagan Roman religions were buried in the catacombs, and I thought that was interesting as well. So I believe it's I've never been there, but I don't know if it's with the skulls and everything is that what that is, right? Are they lined with skulls, or that's not it?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. On some of them, it looks like.
Yeah, I would like to check that place out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Mhm. 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 Mm, mhm. 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 That is a great point. Let's see here. Let's see what pops up on this thing. Let's see. Oh no. So it goes into. Mhm. 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 Yeah, that's a great. That's right. Right. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. So I looked up
That is
the
a good point.
word Christian, the origin. The word Christian originates from the Greek term Christianos, which means follower of Christ. This term is derived from Christos, meaning anointed one, which translates the Hebrew word Mashiach, also meaning Messiah or anointed one. The term began to be used in the early days of the Christian faith to describe believers in Jesus Christ. That's where that comes from. That's good.
Yeah.
Right. Was yeah. So right. So see, okay, Christos is a so Christian as a noun, follow Christ was 1550s. But you're talking about the actual person itself, not the Christian. And here we're saying 1520s as a noun, but you're talking about a person, right? You talking Christos as a person? Constantine. Oh, that's a movie. Well, yeah, you're right. Well, see, because he was no, he was at the same time. Constantine was 27th of February 272 to May 22nd 337. So he was a part of that.
He was
He was
see,
absolutely a part of that because to everything you just said about him, because he's the one who legitimized it, and so he might have been a part of that as well, that council as well. But he was definitely living.
okay. could
Mm.
worship to. You know,
So let me read this little bit right here.
okay.
Although Constantine lived much of his life as a pagan, he later became a catechumen as he began to favor Christianity in 312, finally being baptized by Eusebius of Nicomedia, an Arian bishop. He played an influential role in the proclamation of the Edict of Milan in 313, which legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire, convoked the First Council of Nicaea in 325, which produced the Christian statement of belief known as the Nicene Creed.
Yeah.
So he was absolutely a part of that. Yeah.
Was he really? It's definitely worthy to be to research, man. This is just a great journey.
That researching is just, it's just critical. It's absolutely critical to the knowledge and to the growth and to the information that you come across. It's just crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, that is, and it's,
So I'm going to go ahead, bro. I'm going to that very next paragraph, paragraph. According to inscriptions at the Serapeum of Memphis, the ancient Egyptian, how do you say it? It's not Serapis? What'd you say?
Serapis.
Was born of the Virgin Mother when she was represented by the sacred heifer that was Horus, son of Hathor, during the lunar code, which was a type thousands of years older than the type of the mystical human virgin. So I thought that was significant, given reference to the birth of Jesus, and how immaculate conception. So I thought that was pretty significant, how that was way, 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 way older than, before Jesus even came on.
Right. Yep.
So even the very next paragraph, prehistoric Christianity was founded as Egyptian on the resurrection of the human soul issuing from the body of the corpus imagined in death, and its coming forth today as demonstrated by the reappearance of the Eidolon, or the double of the dead. It was the belief in the true paleogenesis. So that word there, how do you say that thing? Eidolon? Eidolon? Was in ancient Greek literature, the Eidolon is an image or an idol, double apparition, phantom ghost, is a spirit image of a living or dead person, a shade or a phantom lookalike of the human form. Thought that was interesting. And so that also too, the palingenesis, there we go. Palingenesis, it is a term derived from Greek meaning birth or regeneration. It refers to the concept of rebirth or recreation in various texts, including philosophy, theology, biology, and politics. I thought that was significant as well. In theology, it often denotes the rebirth or the renewal of creation, particularly in Christian texts, and also can make it be along those same lines as a reincarnation, so to speak. And the Hindu and what they believe into as well. Again, with these words, man, I try to look up to give a definition to them. Even though we've come across them again, it's just getting Christianity and religion, and you're getting biology and all kinds of stuff at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, you just said something about reincarnation. There's a book out, I think it's by Dr. Otten Stevenson, and it's called Biology and Reincarnation. He actually has proven that we as people reincarnate up to 15 to 20 times. You know what I mean? And he gives factual information, in this particular book. So I mean, because we hear about rebirth all the time, and when you actually are part of these societies, you go through a rebirth process. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But the thing is that even as a human being of this world, you would go through probably multiple rebirths. You see what I'm saying? Some of us were gangsters growing up. We did this, we did that. But through our rebirth, through our growth, we call it growth now. But through rebirth, we are renewed. We are renewed because we no longer think that way like we once were. You feel what I'm saying? So I got a brother of mine. I say he's a mentor, retired from military, worked with me at this particular gym as a personal trainer. He was just a front desk guy in his late 70s. But once his sons graduated, he left and went to Wyoming and lived off I thought I lived off the grid. He
Right.
literally lived like off the grid, meaning you couldn't even get to him by vehicle. It was only by plane. You know what I
Right.
mean? And he did that for about 10 years now. I look on his social media, he's married, living a different life, but he mentions his rebirth. He
Mm-hmm.
mentioned going out into the wilderness and dying, not physically, but mentally,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally dying. And then because he mentioned that even with his wife that he has now, if he would have been the same person, it would have never worked out.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So he talks about how important his rebirth was for his new journey.
Right. Right. You also too, to add to that, in baptism, you get baptized in the water. You go down, you come
Sure
back
do.
up, and you reborn again. But but
Right.
that's a great correlation right there to how you
Mm-hmm.
put that to everyday life, because that's exactly right. Right. We
Mm-hmm.
do call it growth. We are steadily
Right.
rebirthing. That's a great point, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Robert. Haru, piggybacking off what y'all saying. Yeah, it says that y'all heard the Christian book. Whenever they were saying that you had to be born again. I can't remember which part of the Bible. It might have been
Mm-hmm.
New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, how do you be born again? I think when they was trying to trip up Jesus, they were like, so you mean to tell me you got to be born again? But even then, he was telling them, he was like, look, you got to be born again. You have to, whether it's by water or you have
Mhm.
to change, and it is interesting, man. That is, and then once again, Church War does a great job of correlating that and bringing that to the surface. That's in the ancient the ritual book, the Book of the Dead, and it says it right there on the hieroglyphs that you have to be born again, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
interesting, man. It's
Yeah.
pretty good stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can spend another 30 minutes on just that by itself.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Come on. Come on.
I
Come
remember
on.
you telling me a little bit, not to get too much detail, but I remember Haru, you was telling, we had first linked back up, you was telling me about your rebirth. Man, that was I remember that
Yeah.
story that you was telling me
Mhm.
about that, man.
Even to a point where I changed my name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and my wife and I, we play roles off of that, if that makes sense. Like, she calls me when I'm consider her rude. She says, "Go get your sandals." You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a swell person. I want, I negotiate. But then when I'm V or Bernard, I'm a little more chaotic. A little bit more aggressive, or whatever the case may be. So I say that you no longer do those things, but I think I've learned through. I watched a movie called Doctor Sleep, and he had these particular demons, right? The thing about the demons is that he could control them early on in his life, so they took control of him. So as he grew or rebirthed himself, he was able to put that demon in a box. You see what I'm saying? And when you need to use that, you go get it because you have control of it. You can put it back. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I thought that was pretty significant too. When it came to that. So but yeah, I went through that myself, and I know for a fact that I wouldn't be in the position I am to this day if I continue to live my old way. I would not.
Sure. I think we've all had those life experiences, man, both you gentlemen just said, to where, the earlier path was chaotic. And, it has to do with you then finding your way through the world, going through all those emotions that come with that. And however, if you are aware, life has a way of humbling you to make you see that there is a different path and, give you another olive branch, as they say, to go something
Right.
different, to be able to
Right.
change yourself. And I'm grateful that you gentlemen took it. For all of
Yes.
us, we would not be
Yes.
having this
That
fellowship
is
right now.
true. That is so true. That's so true. Yeah, that is so true.
I'm gonna go on to on to the next paragraph. I mean, it's like, again, I'm sorry, but it's just too
Oh no,
much,
you good,
too much
brother.
information in this thing, man.
Yeah.
Except for all, as in all historic personages. It has its roots in the remotest past. The same legend was repeated in many lands with a change of name and at times of sex for the sufferer, but none of the initiated in the esoteric wisdom ever looked upon the Kaimat Isa or Gnostic horrors, Jesus, Tammuz, Krishna, Buddha, Wataba, or any other, and the many saviors as historic in personality for the simple reason that they had been more truly taught. And I thought that was very powerful right there. I thought that was very
Yes.
powerful, right, man.
Yes.
Thought that's off right there.
15 more saviors before Jesus Christ even existed. 15
15.
more, 15 more. Yeah.
It's just that's just crazy. Again, it just that thing right there. If you look, if you didn't read
Mm-hmm.
nothing else, you
Mm-hmm.
just read that paragraph.
Yeah. Right.
It's gonna blow your mind.
Yeah. 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 Well, this
If you
next page,
go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say this next page, you can almost damn near close the book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because this
Yeah.
next page, it literally tells you that the unionation, conception, birth, and adoration of the child was presented by the ancient Egyptians because
Yeah.
it was on a stone granite wall. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can't deny that. You just can't deny that. And I mean, I even went too far as looking at the scenes that were being presented on the wall, to give my own depiction of what I was looking at. You know what I mean? But it's like after that, you can just close the book because you really believe that anything after any religion that came after this is done for. It's done for. You know what I mean? As Dr. Henry Clark has stated before, that it was like a spirit that creeped up on Christianity and just snatched a rug from underneath it because once was is no longer because it's been proven that it's not. In other words.
Right. That's right. Listen, this is the next 2.5 pages. I mean, it's to everything you just said. The next 2.5. It's ain't nothing even talk about.
Yeah, you're right about. Yeah, you're right. You definitely right about that. So but I don't know how you want to continue with it, Robert. But like I said, we gonna encourage people to go read this book. You know what I
Yes.
mean? We gonna went through this whole book. We've read it front to back. We've done our studying. We've done our due diligence. Done a better understand this in our own way. But it's undeniable. The facts are undeniable. And that's one thing about society nowadays is there's so much misinformation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, not saying that Church Ward is 100% right, but you cannot deny something that is engraved on a granite wall. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just can't. And whether you don't understand the pictographs or ideology of it, you know what I mean? That's where it becomes esoteric. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it ain't meant for everybody. You have to believe that there are, and I'm going to use this word kind of lightly, I would say, but there are some fools who just don't care. You see what I'm saying? But when you have people like us who are seeking the truth, not only truth, but seeking knowledge, like I said, the truth is always a perception of any individual person, but we're seeking knowledge. And with that knowledge, it will determine our truth. You know what I mean? And so, but we encourage people to go check out this book because it will blow your mind. And it's outside the narrative. It's outside the narrative. Like Corey had mentioned before, this book was written over a century ago. You know what I'm saying? And not by a brother of our coloration. You see what I'm saying? So even that itself holds some power. And then again, even add to that, he's a brother of the lodge. Again, secrecy is not necessary, right? But in order to understand certain things, it was only given to certain people with certain abilities or with the esoteric understanding.
No, that's beautiful, and we will leave it right there because there's not too much to say after that. There's a little bit more left of the book, however, that is to everything you just said. Exclamation point on that.
Yes, sir.
The book is the origins. Can you see that? Origins and evolutions of religion. I encourage all to give that book a read, a look-see. It's gonna put something on your mind. Mr. Mackey just said it's undeniable. It's listen, as he said, it may not be all true. I think Mr. Churchward did his work very, very well.
Yes, he did.
I'd be hard pressed to say if it's everything in that's pretty factual.
Right. Right.
But wow. Hey.
Good job, fellas. Hey, good job.
Yeah. It's been beautiful, brother. I mean, this next year is gonna be something special.
Yes.
We just getting started in this thing, and again, very grateful to have you gentlemen on with this and being able to get this stuff out to everyone who wants to listen. But also, as you said, we're gaining knowledge, and I'm just fascinated for just that alone to be able to discuss these things and put it out there and grow. And then to have you, Jennifer, grow with me is powerful for
Right.
me.
Yes,
I
sir.
love that.
Yes, sir.
Love that.
Yes, sir.
So, we're going to end it right there. That is the end of the Origins of Religions. We will put something on our pages for what's coming up next for this year. Was it Instagram and
Yes.
Facebook
Facebook.
and Twitter?
Yep. And Twitter X. Yep.
And Twitter X. So stay tuned to those. We're going to be putting things out. Putting some information out there coming up for what's coming up this year. Gentlemen, always powerful, always great fellowship. Love y'all and
Love you too, bro.
Sunday.
You too, brother. Yeah, appreciate y'all.